So at the risk of becoming known as the TV show guy, I am doing my 5th TV show in a row. And this isn't exactly planned. I'd planned on doing a movie next, or a list, or just literally anything else other than my 5th TV show talk in a row. But I'd gotten Peacock the other day to watch Bel-Air, the adaptation of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And after I had finished the offered episodes, I decided, you know what, I can't justify spending $5 just to watch one TV show, so I'll take a look around on Peacock, I guess, see what else it has to offer. The very first thing I saw was the show Wolf Like Me, starring Josh Gad and Isla Fisher. And I thought, yeah, whatever, fine, I'll jump into it real quick to see how I like it. And I was hooked from the very beginning. And I love Josh Gad's career because what I originally know him from is Olaf from Frozen. And the next thing I know him from is Thank You for Sharing, where he plays a sex addict. And one of my favorite things to do with that movie is close my eyes and picture Olaf talking about masturbation and how he's addicted to sex. And it's just the funniest thing in the world.
How am I gonna jack off now, my lord? Kumbaya.
But now the third thing I know him from is this. So I don't know a lot about Josh Gad, but knowing him first as Olaf, then getting to know his career afterwards, where he definitely does not play in kid-friendly roles, is really, really enjoyable and fun to me. But one thing that this show does that I've never seen done before, Josh Gad, is they make him look cool as fuck at times. Like take a look at this man. So yeah. Anyway, let's roll the video. So as I said before, Wolf Like Me is a Peacock original show with 6 episodes in the first season, each one being about 26 minutes long. So honestly, this could have been a movie, but I'll talk about why I don't think that is wise at the end of this video. So Josh Gad plays a single father, Gary, with his daughter Emma, living in Australia. His wife had passed away years ago, and they relocated to Australia to be closer to his daughter's family. He is struggling because of his daughter's major anxiety that he does not know how to handle or relate to her in any type of way, and he is just not a happy person. And his daughter is struggling because she realizes that her father is not a happy person, and she is struggling with herself and also her father and feeling like she's a burden on his life. It is truly a difficult but very real look at anxiety and depression and dealing with the loss of somebody. Just beautifully done in a realistic and horrible way, but in the end, everything does work out nicely, so that is very good. But anyway, he meets Mary, played by Isla Fisher. Mary is a widower as well and has also relocated to Australia. And they have a meet cute when she absolutely demolishes his car with him and his daughter in it. In that moment, obviously his daughter is having an anxiety attack, and she opens up the back door and helps her through it. But Mary and Gary end up kicking it off and have a budding relationship until she absolutely bolts it after acting very, very strange, and we find out that she is actually a werewolf, and she turns into a wolf in her basement on every full moon. So she does not like to get close to anybody. She does not want to start a relationship with Gary, to hurt Gary or Emma, or possibly eat them as a wolf, which we find out she has done in the past. But the universe seems to be forcing them together, so their relationship eventually solidifies and they become a cohesive family unit, kind of, except for, you know, the whole werewolf thing, and then chaos ensues. And I'm not going to spoil the end until the end of this video, where I will spoil the end. So, you know, warning on that, I guess. Now, Wolf Like Me is broken down into a 3-act structure, with episodes 1 and 2 being the first, 3 and 4 being the second, and 5 and 6 being the third. So I'm going to talk about those 3 acts separately. So first off, you have episodes 1 and 2. Now, Wolf Like Me is categorized as a comedy. And although I would say there is a lot of comedic parts in it, it is very, very dark and dry comedy. The first 2 episodes I would not say have a whole lot of comedy at all, besides Mary herself acting very strange. There's a part where she splashes hot tea on herself and throws the mug on the ground, and then when Gary goes to get a rag, she absolutely books it. And then when they're about to go into an Italian restaurant, she absolutely freaks out and books it from there too.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
And there's a couple other moments like that that are a little bit of comedy coming through, but these first 2 episodes mainly are extremely depressing. I don't really think there's a better way to describe it other than very, very down and emotional. And you see the struggles of Gary and his daughter, and you don't really get a whole lot of Mary in these first couple episodes, but you do kind of get this mystery of why Mary is this way. And I really wish that that was done a better way. I doubt this show could have been marketed properly if it was kind of left out that she was a werewolf, because that's the big draw of this show, is the fact that she is a werewolf. If that was able to be kept a mystery, it would have been so much better, because you don't actually even find out why she's so weird and why she can't go into this Italian restaurant and why she doesn't form attachments and why she's sprinting home before dusk on the night of the full moon. You don't know any of these things. You just think she's weird and you want to know why. But you actually do know, because the name of the show and the marketing and the way the trailers are and all like that. And if they were able to have kept that mystery an actual mystery, it would have been so much better, but I still did really enjoy those aspects, knowing what they were going for. At the end of episode 2, though, is when you find out why she's like this. She is a werewolf. Gary follows her to her house because she accidentally took his keys after running into him again, and he gets trapped in her house at night. And then we move on to episode 3 and 4. Episode 3 opens up with her emerging from the basement, absolutely covered in blood, because, she was a werewolf and she killed the goat and the chickens that she kept down there with her, and trying to explain to Gary that, yes, she's a werewolf, how she turned into a werewolf, explaining that she, in fact, ate her husband, and she didn't like the Italian restaurant because she had accidentally eaten an Italian family, and that's how she found out she was a werewolf.
Jesus Christ.
And you get tiny moments like that where you get the comedy, and then you get her walking, trying to get him to see reason and talk to her through a marathon of some kind, just wrapped in a cloak and covered in blood and nobody really paying any mind. And that's also really funny. So in these 2 episodes, you start to get a lot more of the dark comedy, surprise comedy elements. And I actually found myself laughing my ass off to this show because of how dark they go with some of this comedy. But in these 2 episodes, you have Gary trying to get away from Mary and not have a relationship with her, obviously, because finding out that the woman that you kind of like and keep running into but ran away from you is a werewolf is very terrifying.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
It jumped up a notch.
It did, didn't it?
But the universe is also basically forcing them together, and you get these signs early on that the universe, through supernatural means of some kind, is literally forcing them together. I mean, they met because she ran into him with her car. Then they met again when he was on a bad Bumble date in the mall, and she ran into him and, spilled coffee all over him. And then they meet again when he backs her car into him in the road randomly. And you get all these meet cute situations where the universe is very clearly pushing them together. But then you also find out when they're talking in the kitchen that they have the same exact anniversary of the death of their spouse. But in episode 3, Emma, who at this point is struggling very, very much with her anxiety and her depression, and her therapist isn't connecting with her, and she doesn't trust her father or her therapist to talk to them openly because they're just kind of faking it around her, or the therapist is just kind of half-assing it. She connects heavily with Mary, and they get along super well. And Mary had given her a book that she absolutely demolishes, and they get talking about that. And Mary is actually a psychiatrist and ends up being able to help her better with her anxiety. And Emma invites Mary to a dinner where Gary ends up going home with her, and they fuck and they spend the night together, and that's the end of episode 4. And then moving into episode 5 and 6, and you have them just having this wonderful, cohesive romance and family dynamic, and you are very happy with it for them. And then Mary ends up finding out that she is pregnant, but she is scared because she doesn't think that, being a werewolf and a mother is a good idea, and she's scared she's going to eat the baby, which honestly is a very reasonable concern. I mean, I'd also be concerned if I turned into a werewolf, but if I would eat my baby, so I get where she's coming from. They decide that they need to open up to Emma and tell her that Mary is a werewolf, because the longer they wait, it's going to be a difficult conversation. And honestly, in my opinion, I think you could have probably hid it from Emma until she was at least a teenager and had a, more sound, stable hold on her mental health. But, not my kid, not my choice. So it's fine. But they decide the best option is that 2 nights before the full moon, they are going to go out to the Australian outback in the middle of nowhere where they don't have any phone reception, have a camping trip, and then tell her that Mary is a werewolf. Also, not the best idea. Maybe do it like 4 days before the full moon. But again, whatever. Maybe that's when he could get vacation days. I don't know. Mary chickens out and instead tells Emma that she is pregnant. But then, dun, 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 the car battery is dead and they're stuck in the outback, and Mary has to absolutely book it away before she turns into a werewolf. And then these 2 guys end up pulling up to the car in the middle of the night when Gary and Emma are hiding out in the car while Mary is off being a werewolf, doing werewolf things somewhere. And until this point, you had never actually seen Mary as a werewolf. And I never expected to see Mary as a werewolf. I thought it was kind of cool that we hadn't. But it defied my expectations by showing Mary absolutely butchering these 2 guys and being a werewolf. One of the funniest lines of the entire show is delivered where Gary tells Emma, and she's like, "It's Mary. She turns into a wolf sometimes." And it's very dry, and I love that kind of humor.
It's Mary. She turns into a wolf sometimes.
The show ends the next morning when Mary comes back, and they're driving away from the outback back into town, and there's this music playing, and they all just kind of start smiling and looking at each other and realizing, hey, this works, we're a happy family. Whew, God, I did it. I blazed through it. Now, one of the top things I actually really, really like about this show is that Mary being a werewolf isn't like the A plot. Her being a werewolf doesn't really matter in the overarching thing of the story. That's like B plot. Like, you never even see her being a werewolf until like the last 10 minutes of the last episode. The real overarching story is about their difficulties and Emma's depression and anxiety and their romance and their family dynamic and coming together when they both have baggage and are widowers. And Mary being a werewolf is just kind of also happening in on the back burner. And I really like that. I've never seen a show have a supernatural element just kind of be something that's also happening. Something that's there to help the plot move forward and not the plot point. And I don't know any other movies or shows that do that. If you guys do, please let me know. I'd love to see more like that. But beyond that, the character dynamics between everybody is absolutely wonderful. Like, Emma is played by Ariel Joy Donahue, who is absolutely wonderful. Like, as far as child actors go, she's one of the best I've ever seen. So I look forward to seeing her career in the future. But the dynamics between everybody is wonderful. Another thing I really like is the time jumps. This show actually spans, I believe, 3 to 4 months time. And you get the idea of the time jumps through small montages, but also every time she turns into a werewolf. And you see that Gary is helping her through the transformations. And you see every single time she emerges from the basement. So you get to see through that way how the time jumps are happening. And a lot of time in a 6-episode show going 3, 4, 5 months at a time in the future just seems clunky and weird. But this one pulls it off in such a great way that is actually necessary to the story, with her being a werewolf, and it shows their progression of their relationship and how much better Emma is doing and how he is helping her. And I just think that is very well done. And finally, I had said earlier in this, each episode is about 26 minutes long, and there's 6 episodes. So this could have very easily been a movie. Not a short movie, but also not like an Endgame length movie either. But I really don't think that it could have been a good movie, because the episode structures and the act structures that it has is really conducive to it being a TV show and having those cool cliffhangers, even though it was all released on the same day. But also, I'm really looking forward to future seasons of this. I think that the next season could be really cool, seeing what like a pregnant werewolf is like and the struggles of that. The 3rd season could be like the struggles of being parents while having a baby and how it's difficult for Josh Gad to handle that when she has a full moon. And, you know, there's been hints that maybe the baby's also a werewolf. So what is a baby werewolf like? You know, is he kind of like half a werewolf because his dad's a human and his mom is a werewolf? That could be cool to explore. But anyway, please watch this show. I imagine if you made it this far, you actually already have watched the show, and otherwise I've just spoiled everything for you. So tell me what you think if you have watched it. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my other videos.